TV Live. Hello everyone. It's my girl right here. Let me roll this down a little bit so you can see him. Let me roll the camera down. Oops. It's my girl right here. I hope everyone is doing well. Though he had to sit on my lap. I hope everyone is doing well so far. It's getting a little cold here, and my van is still being fixed in the shop, so I still have to stay somewhere temporarily. But how is everyone doing with the transition of the fall? Hi Matthew, hi Stu Matthews. Uh, so um, I just decided that on these slides, I'm just gonna share with you some of the realization that have happened in my life. And Facebook, Instagram is down, yeah. But luckily YouTube is not down today. So we still have that going. It's one day to be away from the social media, so that's just great. But because I scheduled a live for today. Hello, Glenn. I scheduled a live for today, so luckily YouTube is not down. But I just post the stories. Oh, WhatsApp too. I just post a story on Instagram about this live. So since it's now, nobody probably see my story anyway because I posted this last night, like very late last night. So I guess only you guys on YouTube that is aware of this live anyway. But regardless, you can still rewatch the live. Hi, say you the one. Hi. Um, if have notifications for YouTube, yeah. Otherwise, everyone can rewatch the live. The reason I like to do live on these topics is because first of all, I don't procrastinate on it. Like if anything come up, like I will be able to talk about it right away, because if I sit on it, like I would have to procrastinate if I have to do so much editing. And because the topic is more like about um it's more like about talking and conversation, so it's a lot better to do live than doing like hi, I see some new people here on the chat. Then doing like a regular like editing video, because it's just gonna be a lot of like lessons sharing anyway. So okay, so without further ado, I just want to share with you the experience and the story behind it. I'm just gonna let Marco go. I don't feel he comfortable on my lap. Okay, Marco can go. But let me adjust the screen so it is a little bit higher so you can see me. But you guys can see me and hear me well, right? First of all, because this is my new phone also. Um, this is this is the second new phone that I have to switch. So, but it seemed to work better than the previous one, I think. So I think that you can hear and see me well. If you don't, just make the comment and let me know, okay? so so this experience is very much related to my book, the process of writing the book. So the first couple weeks, okay, so you hear me well. So the first couple weeks, it has been like a lot of stress, especially going back and forth with like the editing process of my book. Um, and the backstory is this: I wasn't really happy with the editing process because I felt like my editor didn't really understand um, my standard. And it's like they have a different standard and I have a different standard. And when they send it back to me, the final version of the book during the editing process, I was like, there was way too many errors. And I was really obsessed. Like I clearly I was really upset, and so we had like to go back and forth several rounds in order to complete the editing. And because it was just me, right, so I couldn't catch like everything. I couldn't catch on the errors, so I have to send it to like other people to read the book. This is for like editorial reviews, and there was one or two feedbacks came back, and they said the editing wasn't done properly. um, and I was like, this is not me being like a perfectionism. This is not me like being like ridiculous, how to being so perfect. And it wasn't me being ridiculous about little details, right? Because it's all about editing. Editing is all in the little details. And because like during the whole process I was asking myself, right, am I being such a perfectionist? Like am I being so difficult about this and putting it on other people, until I get the feedback and from someone else also tell me, no, this is not done properly, and I already paid my editor a lot of money to have it done professionally. um so the bottom line is that when I was asking myself, because I know that I have always been a perfectionist. Like I have, if you Asian, you know. If you Asian, you know, because I have been raised in a very strict family, and there's just so much criticism. That's just like the culture background. So I'm very well aware about that, like how much I am so critical and judgmental. Um, so I was like, when I was working with the editor, I tried to pay more attention about that, and it's just try not to be like such a perfectionist, um, and push them unreasonably until I get a feedback from someone, and then I realize, oh, this is a big realization for me, okay? The struggle of being Asian, yeah. So this is a big realization for me, that everything has to be in a balance. And when I was asking myself whether I have been such a perfectionist and why my standard is so different with other people's standard, because for them this is like enough, and for me I was like, this is not good enough, like you have to do it again, this is definitely not good enough. um but for them they're like, it's okay, you can publish it like this. There's errors, but then you kind of like, it's impossible to have everything done so perfectly. um and so I ended up have to have the book edited again somewhere else, and so it has caused a lot of stress going back and forth. But the big lessons for me is this: there has to be a fine balance between the two, and this is where I finally realized that my fear of not being good enough is pushing me to create more value. Basically, if it's too much on one side, I'm gonna fall into the trap of being a perfectionist, which perfectionism is an illusion, right? um, Nothing can ever be perfect. Like even the earth, it's not completely round, it's not completely circle, it's slightly oval. And it's normal like that in nature. So it's like, for us to keep chasing perfectionism, we're just gonna keep chasing forever, and we're not gonna go anywhere, and I would not be able to have anything done if I just sit in that perfectionism. However, if it's too far on the other side, not being a perfectionist, is we fall into the clumsiness, um, and also an illusion that everything is enough. Because if everything is enough, then we are not going to be able to put as much effort and passion and hard work into create something like valuable, right? And when I look at like different examples of like of art, like you're probably aware that there are artists out there, they don't even do that much. They just kind of like spray things onto the canvas and they could sell it for like thousands of dollars. But there's some other artists that actually put a lot of work, like with their heart, their soul, and their passion into their work, um, to create a lot of values and meanings in the work. So when you like compare the two, it's like this guy doesn't work a lot, but he sells like for the very high price, whereas like this guy, um, who put like pretty much everything he has and pretty much the same price or less. And then when you compare between the two, I'm like, which one is actually have more values? Because with this guy, he was like, well, I don't have to do a lot of work, but is this enough for me? But this guy is like, no, like I put in a lot of work to make it feel like it's enough. And so, like, where the value, what is the value between the two, right? And so when I realized that, I'm like, because my standard is different than standard for some other people. And so because of my fear of not being good enough and how much that has pushed me into like being not just my work but also perfecting myself in a certain way, it pushes me harder than some other people who doesn't cling so tight, who doesn't have like such a big fear um, about not being good enough, right? But because it pushes me so hard, because that was the way that I grew up, that was the way that I was raised. It's like I it creates more value, right? Because I have to put so much effort into perfectionism, even though it's an illusion. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Um, and so I have to push myself so much harder than other people. But it is a trap. But it's also a way that to train you into create a better version of yourself, and in return create a better value and better work for yourself and for other people. And so that's where this is where the alchemy comes from for me, because that's the balance. Like everything has to be in the balance. If you look at the pendulum, right, when it swings to the left, it's also swing equally to the right. And according to the law, the polarity law of the universe, like if there's the good, there's also the bad. If there's not, there's also south. um, if there's the love for yourself, knowing that you are enough, there's also equally the fear on the other side, saying that you are not enough, so you can push yourself a little further in order to um, in order to create a better version of yourself. Because if you always think that you're going to be enough, then what is it going to push you to be a better version of you? And so that is when I actually realized, okay, love and fear is actually the same thing, because I push myself to be the better version of myself because of this fear. So basically, that is also the same as the love energy, right? So that's the law of the polarity actually means, is it states that love and hate is the same thing. It's just different in degrees. It's kind of like hot and cold is the same thing, but it's just different degrees in temperature. So it's either one side or the other side. But of course, it's much more comfortable when it's like in the middle. If it's 0 degree, then it's too cold. But it's 40 degree, then it's too hot. But it's 20 degree, then it's like this is normal room temperature, and we feel comfortable around this balance point of the temperature. Is the same as between the love and the fear, that it has to be at the balance. in order to create what is the best for us and for everyone around us. So that was like I have always thought that my fear was actually what really bring me down, like anchor me down to um to restrain me from everything, from living my best life. But after this incident, yeah, it's like the yin and yang. Everything has to be in balance. So after this incident, like I understand it in like a deeper layer, and now I'm like, I don't feel like I hate this fear. I don't feel like, oh, I have to reject it. So sometimes that when we hear the concept, we understand it, but we don't really know, or we don't really feel what it's like until we really experience this. And that's what it is like for me. Like until this incident hit me, then I realized like when I experience that, I can actually feel it, and I'm like, I don't hate my fear anymore. I realized how much this fear has pushed me to be the person I am really. Because if I think that I am enough, then I wouldn't be able to like come in here and come on YouTube and talk about it, or even write a book about it. Um, and because I was such a judgmental person, at least I was, and a lot more, a lot less now, but I was very, very judgmental. And um that's the reason why it has pushed me down to this path. Because if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be able to um go dig deeper into this fear of not being good enough, because I felt so bad about myself. And I blame that fear for being like kind of like a monster, without recognizing the benefits that it actually provide to me, until now when I see in this example of when it actually directly impact me at a very high cost. then I realize then I realize the truth of the story, when I actually see the stories on both sides, when I actually experience it from both sides. um, then I finally understand the lessons. And that's the reason why sometimes when we hear other people that hear different teachings, sometimes you don't really know what is right and what is wrong until you actually experience it, put yourself in that circumstance. Because the lessons that I learned was that you have to get rid of fear, right? And the other side of the lesson is like, um, no, fear is actually your friend. I heard that teaching too, but I didn't quite agree with it, and I didn't quite understand why. Because in my mind, I have always thought that this is what anchored me down. How could that be my friend, right? How could I accept this? And yeah, not until I experience this is when I actually have um, the full acceptance of everything. So sometimes maybe it's a little bit difficult, just kind of like so many accidents. The accident with my van happened to me, and now the incident with the editor. So sometimes we just have to go through with these not very easy incidents in order to realize the lessons for ourselves, even though it is difficult, even though it can be heartbreaking, and it can steer us into a completely different direction. But the treasure in it is the lesson, and when you realize that lesson, then you have a different awareness. Sorry, Marco is barking so much. Let me let me put him away, and then I'll be right back. Marco, no, you're too noisy. Wanna come here? Yeah, Marco. Sorry. You make too much noise. I don't know if you can hear me well. Um, so the the treasure is in the lessons, and in order for you to obtain the lessons is to go through with the experience. And sometimes like we don't know whether the experience is good or bad, but as far as we know, um, that you just have to go through it no matter what, right? So that's treasure, that lessons is actually the gold, so that you have to transform from the negative experience, which is the lead, like, and that's like a metaphor in alchemy, that you have to transform something negative into, like, which is lead, into something positive, a treasure, which is gold. And that's the lesson I have been applying in my life ever since I learned about alchemy. And that's why I think this book is going to help a lot of people to have different awareness, um, about their life, about their experiences, and about the struggles that they're going through as well. Because I cannot talk about I can talk about my experience and my lessons. That's the reason why I'm sharing the stories. But the knowledge of alchemy has been around since like for thousands of years. This is like ancient knowledge, and that's why I'm giving out the first chapter for free, because that's the background knowledge in order to understand the book and the journey and the story. So if you haven't already, you can go ahead and download that chapter and see how much that you have learned from it, and how much that is relevant to you. Um, because this is not my knowledge, but this is the knowledge that has built from other people, and that's the reason why I'm putting this chapter out for free. And I wholeheartedly believe that it's going to be transformative, and to have this kind of awareness at least, um, and to experience this. And because you already have the awareness when you're going through such a struggles or an issues, then it's much easier to shift your mindset, um, to a better state, and to actually recognize the lessons that you learn from it. Because if you don't recognize the lesson, then you're gonna have to repeat it again, and you have to like go through the cycles over and over again until you actually learn it and realize, oh, like how everything actually happened for us in order for us to transform and to be better. So I hope that it is helpful so far, um, with this realization, and that maybe it will be able to help you, um, to take a second look as well, to have a different awareness whenever you run into an issue, whenever you run into an incident like mine, because it made me feel really, really bad for the last couple of weeks. So that's all I want to share in this live. And also one reminder that the pre-order for the book is going to end by the end of tomorrow. So if you haven't already, so you can make the pre-order on Amazon, until the end of tomorrow for Kindle ebook. Thank you so much everyone for joining me live today, and allowing me to share my lessons and my realization with you. Thank you for supporting me, and thank you for being here. I hope you have a great day or a great night. everywhere you are. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.